I'll
Hey,
let you do your magic.
Audrey's jumping in here. She's trying to crash the show here. So
Not
now we're
really.
live on all the YouTubes, all the Facebooks. We're live on LinkedIn.
Hi, guys.
We're talking about I tiptoed on this morning in Joel's tips this morning. I tiptoed on
You
this
kind of
as
went
far
deep, I
as,
think.
did I?
I think you did. Trying to get away from the microphone. Okay, there we
Guilty
go.
of that once in a while. So,
Well, because you know what you're talking about.
right. So anyway, we're going to dive into, as Audrey exits here, we're going to dive into Open Office Hours Live. We're talking about email marketing. This is part 1. We have a 3-part series that we're doing on this. So hopefully this is going to bring you some valuable insights on what you need to make sure that you're doing. We're going to cover a few different key things. And for those of you joining us on some of the other channels on YouTube, on Facebook, thank you for jumping in and joining us. This is a very important thing that we're going to talk about. Look at that. I'm just covering the Connect360. I almost need to shift things just a little. We'll figure that out later. Anyway, I got ADD. It's really bad. It's better now with Gary Brecka and 10X Health for those of you that know him. But we're going to talk about email marketing, the technical. So there's a few different things that we want to talk about on email marketing. So again, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. And the first part is probably one of the most overlooked parts. A lot of people will jump to like the number 2 as far as like the content and those types of things, but they forget the number 1 most important part, and that's the technical. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some best practices. And just a little bit of background, just to introduce myself. My name is Joel Boer. I'm the president of, right there, first, let's get it right. It's over there. First Direct. I'm the president of First Direct, founded in 2005. We are a marketing and advertising technology company with a full in-house agency, and we work with companies to help them find the right information, insights, and solutions to empower their growth and success. And that's you. When we say there, we're talking about you. And one of the backgrounds, or one of the areas that I've worked with a lot of companies on, in fact, we do a lot of stuff actively right now for companies like Sam's and Walmart, amongst many, many others, to help them with email deployment on different things. And there's always a lot of big challenges. So, I mean, we've done some really massive, exciting projects over the years where we're deploying like 15, 20 million emails in about a 24, 48 hour period. And you can't do that on just a standard MailChimp. You can't do that on those things. But the mechanics, the technical that it takes to set those things up correctly is what small business needs today above anything else to do it the right way as well. And that's why I want to cover this topic in as simple as way as possible, and actually show you some of the tools that we make available to our clients to actually help them to see things. Can you check YouTube, by the way? Make sure we're streaming there. We're good there. Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you for sharing that out, man. But we should be good, maybe just a little bit delayed. So now we got a lot of people jumping onto YouTube and Facebook right now. So feel free, like in the chat, like give me some comments, like help me to know whether you're doing email marketing right now. So we want to actually get into that. I'm going to set the stage right now. So let's actually overlay. We'll show some of the comments. Look at that. We got Gus. We got Jerron from Recycle Max. We got some wonderful clients here that are joining us to actually cover this topic. And I think that this is something, again, that's overlooked a lot of times, but I want to try to really break it down. A lot of people will avoid this because they fear that it's overly difficult, right? And I don't want you to feel that way. We want to actually really make this as simple as possible. So let me set the stage here real quick. I'm going to share some of the main tools that I use, as well as I'm going to actually go into what I touched on a little bit this morning of some of the basic things that you got to really make sure are there. Hey, Al, thanks for joining us on Instagram. Some of the basic things that you really got to make sure are there in regards to your DNS when you're setting up mail sending environments, those types of things. So let me actually get in a few things. A lot of times when you're setting up your email, like for example, for Google Workspace or Office 365 or those types of things, I mean, right away, you're going to set up things called MX records. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see, where's it at? There we go. Brian, there we go. We got it live now. We got it coming in hot with Brian Gelke. Hey, by the way, side little plug here. Make sure you go to begrowthdriven.com because we're going to have Brian on. He's going to blow your mind. Literally go blow your mind. Make sure you go driven on YouTube. And we're going to have Brian Galki there. We've got some exciting episodes, actually, one that just dropped here this afternoon. A good friend of mine, Mark Kensley from Englander Mattress Company. He's the president also. He's a founder of the FAM, a global community that is big. And you'll want to learn for as far as how he has actually blown that up. And then next week, a good friend of mine, Matt Smith, is jumping on, coming in hot, as he would like to say. And he's sharing some insights about his growth. It was actually an episode that we recorded a while back. So anyway, all right, let's jump into back to the topic. Again, I get a little squirreled once in a way, but I hope it's not losing you. So when we set up, for example, here's my DNS for Connect360. So when we set up, for example, a domain, a lot of times, like right here, this MX record right here, when you're looking at your DNS, whenever it has like an @ symbol, like in GoDaddy, will have a little @ symbol right here, or it has the domain with no other period and extension on it, that's usually referring to your root domain, which was what this is. And you'll notice that what we're using right here for our mail for Connect360 is Office 365. So we're using Microsoft. We're not using Google Workspace in this particular domain. We do have Google Workspace on others, but this is the MX record. So let me kind of explain the technical of what an MX record is. An MX record, think of it as like it's the receiver. Okay. So the MX record is always going to point to what's receiving mail for a given domain. Okay. And so if your MX records are not plugged in there, right, you're not going to get mail for your domain, or you're not going to get mail at that mail service provider. Now, let's look at some of the different types of records here. I'm going to actually jump over to our Connect360 platform here and go into our email services. And let's go into here. And I'm going to go ahead and actually go into one of these domains so you can actually see actually some of the settings. Actually here, hang on, click tracking, we have that set. And all right. So typically, like this is a good example. So not only do you have MX records to receive domains, so there's 3 different types of records. This right here, actually there's 4 total records that are going to need to be set up in your DNS for email. 4 records, 4 different types of records. Okay. The first one is an MX record. And so that's going to be as if you're going to receive email on that particular domain. So like this domain that we're looking at is a subdomain. It's what we just abbreviate it. We have a naming convention that we go with. It's a DD domain for us. So it's like direct traffic is what we use it for, like direct conversations, those types of things. And I'll get into the details of that a little bit later on in this office hours. But so that's the MX record. This is going to handle the receiving. So this is incoming traffic. This is what's going to happen for your domain. Now, all of these other records in this particular case, these are all for outgoing. MX record is for incoming. All the other records are for outgoing. Okay. Really important there. So let's dive into what some of these other records are. And so these other records right here, for example, we have what's called the SPF record. So you can see that this created a text record. It's an SPF record. And I came up with a good illustration that I shared this morning that helped to really explain the difference and what these things are. So that way people could understand those things. So think of it, imagine like this, that we're all going to a really classy party. Okay. And there's 10 doors that could open up into this party, but only one door is open. Okay. Or let's say 2 doors are open. So let's just imagine that 2 doors are open for this party. And so what the SPF record does is it basically says what doors are open, meaning what servers can send email as your domain. So if, for example, in this case, we're saying, hey, Mailgun has permission to send as dd.connect360.app. Okay. So we're giving, through this SPF record, we're giving the permission for traffic to come out. In other words, be sent out into the world from this sender. Okay. So nobody else. So if for example, we didn't have a Mailgun listed there, or let's say we had Mailgun and we had Office 365. Well, both of those could send mail as that domain. But if we had, for example, if we didn't have Yahoo and something from Yahoo tried to send, it wouldn't. Our domain is say our DNS settings are saying, hey, Yahoo doesn't have permission. So think of, again, back to our party illustration, that SPF record is like the what doors can open there. All right. So that's the SPF record. Now, the next record right here is what's called a DKIM record. So it's a domain key. So D is usually you'll see it as DM DKIM. So DKIM is normally what you'll see that referred to, domain key. And what this domain key is imagine that this is when someone's walking through the door, they're saying, hey, here's my credentials that say I'm allowed to come in here. That's what a DKIM is. And so what it does is when the sending server is sending email out, it's signing that email. And when your receiving server, for example, when you're getting mail when your server that you get email on is receiving mail, well, then that's saying, hey, let me check the DNS to make sure that the signature you're showing me in the email is the right signature. Okay. Does it have permission to send? Great. So now we've established that. If it doesn't have that DKIM, we'll explain why that is important later. So again, just to recap, MX is for incoming. Our SPF record right here and DKIM record are for outgoing. Now, what's the fourth record actually? Fourth record is something called a DMARC record. Okay. And this DMARC record, I'm going to go up here and find it. It's right here. Now, this DMARC record, now DKIMs and SPF records are all by domain. So subdomain. In other words, your root domain is considered a domain. Anything with a abbreviation in front, .your root domain is considered another domain. And so they'll have their unique DKIM, MX records, and SPF records. A DMARC record, though, is only put once. So if you're looking at your DNS and you see multiple DMARC records, it's a no-no. We got to fix that. Here's what a DMARC record. So we go back to our illustration of talking about the party, right? And we're saying, hey, what doors can receive mail, or what doors can receive people, and then what should their identification look like? What the DMARC record is, the DMARC is our bouncers. Okay. So the DMARC basically has instructions to say, hey, what if somebody sneaks through this other door? What should we do? Well, in our case, there's three options you can actually have right here. So if you see where I highlighted on YouTube, I highlighted the reject there. This option right here in the DMARC record could be one of three variables. It could be none, which means says do nothing. If they walk in this other door, even though it was locked, like just let them in. Like let them roam and go raid the bar and hors d'oeuvre tray and all that good stuff. Do nothing. The next one is quarantine. So hey, let's corral them and stick them in the spam folder. That's what quarantine will do. Reject says, hey, if you walk in one of these other doors and can't give me the right identification, right? I'm going to reject you, kick you back. Okay. And that's the best policy to be able to set things up on. That means that, hey, any other sending environments that you're setting up, right? Any other sending, you need to make sure that all these things are in alignment. So let's give a real example of that. So in business, let's say, for example, you sign on to a new service and it says, hey, we can send email as your domain. It's a white labeled service or whatever the case may be. And they need to be able to send mail. Well, we need to make sure that that is set up correctly too, or else those mails won't get through. Simple as that. So we need to make sure that those things are configured correctly as well. So again, just to recap, as far as there's four main things as far as record wise that we want to make sure is set up correctly. MX record for incoming. We want a SPF record for each domain that allows what can send as that domain. And then we need a signature, a DKIM file that should be there. And a lot of times I've noticed that like when someone set up their mail, like with a Google Workspace or Office 365, they fail to turn that on. It's a quick turn on. It's a quick fix. And we can actually get that all resolved for you. It takes just a moment. So just reach out to me, text me the word email to 402-403-6210 if you need some assistance with this, and we'll get you on my calendar. It only takes a few minutes and we'll get you all sorted. So again, just text the word email to 402-403-6210 and we'll take care of you. My assistant's ready and willing to get you a calendar link. So those are those main things. Now, let's say, for example, we have all these things set up correctly. There's other things that we want to make sure that we're aware of from a technical standpoint. Um, Kind of think of it like this too. Let's say, for example, you got a best friend. You got a best friend. They know you in and out, and they know that you're a pretty calm person, right? And so now if you all of a sudden start acting a little crazy, right? They know something's not right. Now, in that scenario, think of it this way: when you start sending email, Gmail, Google, Yahoo, and Hotmail all know what the normal behavior at the moment is from your domain and from the IP addresses behind the domain. And that's an important thing to think about, right? So, going back to this, our behavioral patterns, right? They're looking at behavioral patterns from your domain. So, what this means is if you wanted to start doing email deployment, I'm going to stop sharing this here for just a moment. If you want to do, let's leave that. There we go. We'll leave the chat there because I like that. I appreciate you guys jumping in and Gus. Yeah, we got him all straightened out. Uh, but if you're doing email deployment and you all of a sudden, brand new domain, you start deploying like 5,000 emails a day. Well, that's not normal from your domain. And so, in an effort to protect, right, the user experience, companies like Google and Hotmail and Yahoo, they're going to basically eventually block you because they're like, this is just not normal activity from this domain. And so we want to actually protect our users. Keep in mind that our whole experience on the internet is an entertainment experience in one form or another. And so Google knows that, for example, that if you're using their Gmail and it's just always full of spam and junk and it's not a very pleasant user experience, like you're going to go somewhere else. And so they don't want that. And so if they start seeing unusual activity from a domain, well, they know that that's just not normal. And so they're going to actually address that. So one of the things that you can actually start to look at is you want to look at, for example, your domain's reputation and really like what pressure is it getting. And I'm going to actually pull open one of our domains so that way you guys can see that. So let's pull this open and I'm going to share my screen. So really it's kind of like reputation, and Google's really a good indicator of what is a domain is looking like, what type of user experience people are reporting. So it's real simple, postmaster.google.com, okay? And you add your domain in. And if you're sending enough volume, and we're going to get back to like sending thresholds. And if you guys have questions, please just pop them into the comments there. For those of you that are on Facebook, those that are on YouTube and LinkedIn, just pop them into the comments there. And I'm going to answer those questions. I'm going to get you answers right away here. So, what Google Postmaster Tools is really valuable for is because what we're looking for here, for example, the first thing we're looking at is spam rate. So, you'll notice back in December, we had a 5% reported user spam rate. Really bad. Okay. That's really bad. I'm trying to think of what we were deploying back then. Let's look at this December 21st. There's something we sent out. I think it was like an outage, but we had some people report that was spam. That's not good. We had 0.9% up here. This is where you want to actually ideally keep it below this 0.5 if you can. And that way you don't have people, and the way that you actually, keep the spam level down is by regular email deployment. You want to have regular email deployment, so you're not doing this one shot wonders every couple weeks or so. You want a steady heartbeat multiple times a week, ideally 2 or 3 times a week would be the right way to go. And if you haven't been deploying for a while, you want to start really small. 10 emails, 20 emails, 100 emails, 200 emails, 500 emails, so on. Build up the pressure, but watch things all along the way. Postmaster Tools is one of those things. Now, you won't start showing up on Postmaster Tools until there's enough data accumulated in Google's system to start to really give you feedback. We send off of this domain, we send probably about 4,000 to 5,000 emails a week, and so we're enough on the radar that we can actually get some data to know how we're doing. So the next thing we want to look at, so there's all these different things. I'm going to go through each one of these so that way you guys understand what these are. The next thing is IP reputation. Okay. So IP reputation here is going to help us to see that, hey, the sending environments that we're sending from, what do those, because in some cases you might be using what's called a shared IP environment. So you might be with like MailChimp or Constant Contact. Well, they're not going to put you on a static IP. They're going to actually put you on a shared IP address. And what you want to make sure of is that you're not getting like a tainted IP address because some other bad actor. And so we want to look at IP reputation. We want to watch that on a regular basis. You can see, hey, we're sitting in the high state. So that's good. That's, of course, that would be good, right? Next thing we want to look at is domain reputation. So our domain reputation for First Direct Marketing, for example, is high all the way across the board. I can't really go back any further, but at one point in time, we actually had, like, I think, a low reputation. And what it took for us to fix that was, what we did is we made a shift where we stopped deploying anybody that hadn't opened in a while. We just focused on deployment to those that had opened. And so that deployment to those that just opened helped our engagement rate. And we knew we were already making it to their inbox, and that was key. And so we just kept that up for probably about 2 to 3 months and really watched Google Postmaster tools. And it helps us to see. And then we could work in some of that old data. And then what happened is, because we were focusing on domain reputation there, and we started to work in some pieces of that older data, then were able to get into the inbox much quicker there. All right. Feedback loop. What's this? Okay. Feedback loop is basically the spam rate. So it's spam feedback loop across flagged identifiers. So we look at little Microsoft's little definition of it. It says this dashboard only shows up for senders who have implemented the Gmail spam feedback loop. So we've actually have that everything set up. Click any data point on the graph to see. Okay, there you go. So this is basically where somebody has flagged our email as spam as well. But we want to look at this. Obviously, you want to be in the low side. You don't want to be in the high side. So we're riding pretty. We're looking good, and you want 0%. Authentication. Now, the authentication touches into. You'll notice that the records it's showing right here is DKIM, SPF, DMARC. So that's sent again. This is for the outgoing stuff, not the incoming. This is outgoing. And so you want to see all of these show up as 100%. If something's not shown 100%, then something's not hooked up right. Simple as that. It's not hooked up right at all. And that's what we would want to fix. So again, authentications. We talked those there's 4 records, but let's focus on the 3 for outgoing, and that's that DKIM, SPF, and then DMARC record. We want to make sure that those are all good there too. The next thing here, let's drop down this encryption. So encryption, what do you think encryption is going to say? Well, if you're encrypting either outgoing or incoming, so the inbound rate here is talking about our mail going to somebody. And so that inbound rate, we're encrypting 100% of it. That means, hey, that our servers are using best practices and those types of things. And it's actually a very good, whenever you have all those things aligned, then Google, Outlook, Hotmail, Yahoo, all of those, they're going to look at this as a very positive possible experience for their users. And because you're behaving that way, you're more deemed as a positive good actor versus a bad actor. And that's really what we're after. So we talked to encryption and then delivery errors. So believe it or not, just simple errors on delivery. And we're going to touch into one of the most common errors that we see all the time with clients in just a minute. So, and that's in alignment with the proper from email. So delivery errors, like if you're having issues, if let's just imagine it like this, like if we're sending as First Direct Marketing right here, oops, wrong one here. Let me jump back over to that correct one. If we're sending as First Direct Marketing right here .com, but then our from email, like when we're setting up our email campaign, if we put in there, hey, if I put Joel at firstdirectmarketing.com or the domain is firstdirectmarketing.com, but I put the from email address of Joel at firstdirectinc.com. Okay. Well, that firstdirectinc.com doesn't align with the, let me pause sharing so that way I can on YouTube. So that firstdirectmarketing.com doesn't align with the firstdirectinc.com. So they're 2 different domains. And so what we have there is a scenario what's called a mismatch. We have a domain mismatch. And because we set all of our rules up with our DMARC, our DKIM, and SPF, well, First Direct Inc. doesn't have permission to send us firstdirectmarketing.com. And so those are one of the things that would cause those delivery errors. All right. We've covered quite a bit. Be sure to join our office hours member area actually too, because we're going to put this recording really easy for you to actually grab here. And we'll most likely maybe even dice this up to kind of like segment it all out and then put some illustrations and all that kind of stuff with it. I'll put that on the list, Chelsea. Awesome. So we want to kind of, I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys really quick. What we've tried to do is figure out ways to just download all the different things that we do for clients, the stuff that we've done for over 20 years for clients, and really make this easy and understandable. And our mission here, if we're going to complete our mission as First Direct, we can't empower your growth and success if we don't help you fix some of these basic things. And so that's what we're trying to actually accomplish here as well. All right. I got a list now. So now I've kind of gone off tangent. Chelsea, is this the same thing? It is. Okay. Awesome. She's such an awesome helper. Um, so we talked about like uh, uh, DMARC records. We talked about SPF, dedicated sending IPs. That would be one thing. If you start really ramping up volume, you'll want to get dedicated sending IPs and be careful when you start to do that. You want to warm those up the same way you would your domain. And there's different ways to do that. So definitely reach out. Happy to jump on a call and explain how to do that. But the other thing is there's a couple different types of bounces that you'll typically see. You'll see what's called a soft bounce, and then you'll see a hard bounce. Soft bounces could be just a technical burp, you could say, at the moment. But a hard bounce is typically indicative that the email just simply doesn't exist anymore. The receiving server doesn't exist anymore, and you want to get those off your database. So, like if you want to set what you want to do is you want to set up an automation, for example, in whatever platform you're in. That if it's a hard bounce, put it on a suppression list. Like don't email those anymore. I don't care if it takes off 1,000 emails. Get them out. Don't try to resend them. You could take that data and use that as a Facebook audience if you really want to get after those people, but I would take them out. Proper from email, we talked about that. Unsubscribe link. Couple of things on the technical side of things, getting now into the email body, is you need a one-click unsubscribe. You can't have an unsubscribe. You can have two unsubscribe links, but you've got to give them an option for an instant unsubscribe. Google's looking for that. And so if you don't have that instant unsubscribe right there, by the way, actually what we'll do, Chelsea, make a note of this, is this video when I'm talking about like a easy unsubscribe, let's grab an image and we'll have that overlaid on top of the video in our members area so that we can see exactly what we're talking about. Double opt-in. Double opt-in is a good thing. Why? Is because you're really validating intent. And there's some easy ways that you can do double opt-in. Maybe somebody emails in and you just send them an email back saying, "Hey, just want to verify that you're good to be on our list." So unengaged emails. This is a big one. People like get so nostalgic. We were going back to when we had a low reputation on one of our domains. We stopped sending to those that were not opening and not engaging. And the reason why is not because they weren't in existence anymore. It's frankly, we weren't making the inbox. And that was one of the biggest problems. We were not making the inbox. And so you got to stop sending to those people and put them kind of like on a side burner for a moment. Revalidate the data so that way you're not sending to anything that could be a hard bounce and hurting you later. But don't send anything to unengaged. Like work them in from time to time later, and that's going to be the key thing there too. Sending regularly. We talked about the heartbeat. So we want a steady heartbeat of sending deployments. So you don't want to just do like a one this week and then you're waiting 2 weeks and then sending another big deployment. You don't want to do that. You want to really focus on getting a steady cadence on. So like for us, we at least send once or twice a week to our whole database. And we're getting that steady cadence because that's going to bleed off of those hard bounces. We're going to be able to take off the people that want opted out, all those types of things. So we're talking about warm up now next. Give me a second here. Talking about warm up next. And so what we want to do, let's make sure we're still live there. Oh, there we go. Screensaver kind of kicked on there for a second. Anyway, email warm up. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but email warm up is really critical. Like if you're just starting a brand new domain, you're starting starting to send in a new environment. You can't just, even if you switch service providers you've been deploying for a while off of other things, you got to start that warm up. And so what I would almost do, focusing on your warm up, is pull out of your list those that you know, open and click. Those people alone. I would pull those out and focus on those people as like your main engagers and start deploying those guys. If you want to really ramp up your engagement cycle, start with about 100 of those people. Next day, you can bring it up to 150. The day after that, up to 300, and so on and so forth. What you're doing is you're bringing up the temperature, and then start a regular heartbeat of deployment. So basically, you're getting a good steady cadence. Now, over about a week's time, this is where Google Postmaster Tools, what we were looking at earlier. I'll go ahead and share my screen on that. This is where about a week's time, you'll slowly get enough data in here, possibly where you'll start to see some graphs, because they have a 7-day window. So what they're looking for is, hey, in the last 7 days, what's been the experience, for example, on your domain? So IP reputation doesn't show up. That's okay. Don't worry if things don't show up there. But we're looking for any feedback loops, those types of things. All right. So let's see here. Postmaster tools, we talked about that. Review your health report, right? And even inside our environment here, for example, on Connect360, for those of you that are our Connect360 clients, right, you can actually go into the domains and actually see, hey, how are things going? What's the reports on campaigns, those types of things. But then also too, one of the things that you may want to make sure of, just to kind of cover yourself, is you can even in our system set default headers. And then, for example, this might be, hey, Connect 360, and no reply at dd.connect360.app. What that's going to make sure of is that, hey, you always have your sending email in alignment with your sending domain. So simple thing there. All right. Any questions? We got some people on here, maybe some questions that you guys want to look at or want answers to. Happy to answer those questions and go through that. We've covered quite a bit. We've covered, hey, setting up your DNS correctly, setting up or watching your environment, some tools to actually monitor your environment to make sure that you're doing it, some good best practices on warming up new domains and sending, and those types of things. So we've talked about warm up. We've talked about looking at deliverability. Some last things actually that I'll share with you here too, of some strategies to really kind of, as you're warming up a domain, is set up some automation so that you're sending out an informational email first, and then you're having a second email triggered off when they open that. Like say, for example, you do want to sell them a package. Well, I would start with sending them an email that basically tells them information about it, has a strong hook there. And then the minute they open that, the automation fires off the next email that actually gets them to click. So now you get 2 opens and a click for the price of 1, essentially. The other thing on that email, though, too, make sure that you're not using overly cheesy words. Don't use words like free. There's a list of words that you just simply don't want to use that are going to negatively impact your ability to make it to the inbox. And so you want to make sure that you're actually not using those words. Let's see what else. Image to text ratio. Image to text ratio. Usually, what we recommend to clients is probably about a 80%, 70 to 80% text, and about 20-30% images. And I would say don't always necessarily make an email super long. Make it kind of like about 2/3 of the way long, so to speak. You want that hook, the main hook, that main CTA top of fold. So when they open it on their mobile device, when they open it on their desktop, that top third right there is going to have that call to action, and it's very clear. I don't know about you, but if you're selling a high ticket item, well, high ticket items mean high ticket buyers. High ticket buyers don't have time to waste. And so get to the point is what I would say too. I oftentimes get emails and they're trying to do this little tricky as if they were forwarding or replying or that type of stuff. It's like I mark them as phishing, and spam and report them and block them. I just, they're wasting my time, right? So I don't even read them. I'm not going to even read it. So make sure that you're making that hook relevant to the prospect that you're actually going after. That's our cover on the technical. Next week, we're going to go much more in depth on the creative. So this is part one of a 3-part series on email. This is a really big thing. Email is an important channel in your whole marketing plan. And so if you don't have email as an active part of that, these are the practices that you want to make sure are part of your email strategy. So that way you can definitely get the most success. We want to see your success. If you have questions, text our team at 402-403-6210. Again, 402-403-6210. Just text the word email to our team and we'll take care of you guys. So appreciate that very much. We appreciate everyone for jumping on. Those of you that are on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, we appreciate you. We hope this has been enlightening, helpful, informative. We'd love your feedback. We'd love to hear what you'd like to hear next as we dive into everything that's related to marketing, automations, sales, how to scale you. Simple as that. Just I got to get the right spot there. Scale your business. That's what we're after right here. So whatever we can do to scale your business, that's what we're looking to do. We're here to help you out. We've been guilty of providing outrageous customer service. So give us a test, give us a call. We appreciate you tuning in today. And until the next time, till next week, be great because